Really quick, UnCloned Insiders, it's time to go from unknown to uncloned. You got to have the UnCloned book bundle, the #1 book bundle in the marketplace to help you live an uncloned life and build an uncloned brand. All you have to do is head over to unclonedbb.com. That is UnClonedBB.com. Until next time, let's go live an uncloned life and build an uncloned brand. Hey y'all, what's going on? How are you all doing? Happy New Year, okay? Happy New Year. If you are watching this video, just know that this video was pre-recorded for New Year's because 9 times out of 10, I'm probably living my best life and getting in preparation for Uncloned Brand Live. And so if you're not on the list, head over to unclone.live and get on the list for Uncloned Brand Live. All right. Now, we have so many amazing things planned for 2025. So, welcome to the new year. I pray that today is everything that you imagine and more. And I pray that you are in the right headspace to come into 2025 with the most joyous spirit known to man. All right. And so today we're going to be talking about how to ask better questions during Q&A sessions. I know oftentimes when people are deciding on whether or not they're going to ask a question during a live Q&A session, sometimes there's some hesitation there. And the reason I wanted to have this conversation around how to ask better questions is because oftentimes when I'm answering questions and when we're doing Q&A, I can tell when someone has watched content and I can tell when people have not watched content. And so I want to give you some tips because we have a lot of Q&A opportunities coming up. And I want to make sure that I equipped you with the knowledge that you need to have so you can come to these Q&A sessions lit up, excited, and ready to take charge. Because I know for me, when I was coming to a lot of these Q&A sessions, no one ever gave me tips and no one ever told me, how to ask better questions. So I pray that you get some really cool insight from these tips. So whenever you are in a group coaching program or you in any space where you can ask a question, these tips should help you with that. All right. So this is going to be a very quick live stream, but it's relevant because a big part of what we're doing in our community is hosting, Q&A sessions. And I want to make sure that my people is equipped to ask better questions. So let's get into it. Now, I have a total of 5 tips. And so let's get into it. Number 1 is take action. Sometimes you don't have questions because you're not watching the content. So a lot of the times when people come to the call, they're like, well, I don't know what to ask. I don't know what to say. What kind of questions should I be asking? That lets me know that you're not taking action. Because if you're taking action and you're watching the content, you should have questions. There has never been a time where I went through a course and I didn't have a question. At least if I didn't have a question, there was some type of curiosity there. Like, oh, well, what did they mean by that? I wonder what they were trying to say here. So what I would love for you all to do is to actually go through the material as much as you can, even if you got to do module by module, and then ask your questions based on that one single module, right? And so when you come to the call, come prepared. Know exactly what questions you want to ask, and don't be, trying to think of a question on the spot when you know you came to the call to ask a question. And then another thing I'll say that's not listed here is stop waiting on other people to ask your question or hope that they ask a question that you want to ask. Stop being afraid to ask questions, which moves me to the second talking point, which is don't be afraid to take up space. I deal with a lot of women primarily, and oftentimes when we come into spaces, we often are apologizing over and over and over. We're just apologizing and apologizing and apologizing. Why? If you're showing up in a space, especially a space you paid to be in, you should take up space. Ask the questions. Who care if you are come off loud? Who care if you laugh too much? Who care if you too giggly? Right? Like don't be concerned with that. I want you to take up space, not just doing Q&A sessions, but period. In 2025, I want you to take up space. Quit giving people a reason for you to play small. Stop doing that, right? Take up space. Ask the questions. I tell my clients all the time, don't be afraid to be selfish on these calls. If ain't nobody else asking questions, it's just going to be me and you while people witness. Quit waiting on somebody else to ask questions first, and you stop feeling like you can't take up space because you can. All right. Number 3, if you don't know what to ask, then say that and we can troubleshoot it together. So sometimes you may genuinely not know what to ask, but you know that you don't know what you need to be doing. Right. And so in that case, just say that, hey, I was working in module 1 and I watched it and I thought I understood it, but I kind of don't. When you were saying this, can you explain to me what that meant? Right? Because sometimes we don't know, what you understand and what you don't understand. We don't know if we need to break something down even further than what we have already done in the course or the training. So don't be afraid to say, I have a question. Or you don't even have to frame it as a question. It could be a concern or a thought like, hey, I was taking the course and I was curious to know about this. Can you tell me a little bit about what you mean by X, right? And then that response may foster a question for you. But nevertheless, don't be afraid, okay? Do not be afraid to take up space and to ask your question. And if you don't have a question, just say that. Hey, I don't have a question, but I'm dealing with this thing. Can you help me with this, right? So don't be afraid to do that, and then we could troubleshoot it together. Number 4, if you have multiple questions, ask one question at a time. So what that means is if you're on a call and you have 4 questions, don't make them one run-on sentence. Don't say like, hey, I want to know, how do I launch a funnel? And on top of that, my Instagram ain't really performing like I thought it was going to be. And then my email list lead magnet ain't really doing what I needed to do. And then I thought about hiring 5 people at 5 o'clock. Like, come on now. That's too many questions. That's wrapped up back to back to back to back to back. Like, ask your question, get a response. Ask your second question, get a response, so on and so forth. Do not try to create a run-on sentence of a question that's 4 questions wrapped up in one, right? So make sure that when you do have your questions, you're asking one question at a time, okay? And then the last tip is to remember that you have an opportunity to ask a real expert for support and help. I know a lot of the times when people see celebrities or influencers or whatever, and they hold these people to a high regard, sometimes you could be a little starstruck when you have the opportunity to speak to somebody you admire, someone you respect, so on and so forth. Trust me, I know. I used to be a flight attendant and we saw, experts all the time. We saw celebrities all the time. And one thing that I have learned is that this person is an equal just like me. They just achieved more than me. That's how I look at it, right? And so that allows me to not have any fear around asking the question and getting exactly what I need from it, right? Because I'm like, hey, if I can ask somebody who been in the game 50 years or 30 years and they know way more than me, they've been there, done that, and they life experience, they can help me avoid some stuff in the future. Why wouldn't I not take an advantage of this? And then another thing, I didn't put this on the list, but you pay for these sessions. Oftentimes, if you get an opportunity to ask a question, you pay for it. So do not sleep on your investment. Do not sleep on the expert that you paid to help you and support you. Quit taking sitting behind on the sideline and like show up and take up space, right? And then I'll say this too. You don't want to look up and it's 5 years later or 10 years later and you didn't get a chance to ask the question and now the person you want to work with is too expensive. I've seen that happen as well. So don't be afraid to take up space. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay. So let me recap these really quick. So number 1 is take actions, right? Take action, take the course, read the book, do whatever you need to do so you can come prepared to the call and ready to ask your question. Number 2, don't be afraid to take up space. All right. Do not be afraid to take up space. Number 3, if you don't know what to ask, say that and we can troubleshoot it together. Oftentimes, the expert really do want to help you. So don't be afraid to just say, hey, I have a question and it's about this thing, but I don't know necessarily how to formulate it, but this is my issue, right? That's still acceptable, all right? If you have multiple questions, ask one at a time. So don't overwhelm the facilitator, the expert, or whoever is facilitating that Q&A. And then the last thing is remember that you have an opportunity to ask a real expert for support and help. So don't be afraid. All right. So I have 2 more things I want to share with you and then we can jet out. All right. The first thing I want to share with you is if you have not joined our UnCloned community, head over to uncloned.group. I do want to let you know that on December 31st, we removed almost 400 people due to the fact that they were inactive and did not actively participate inside the community. So if you don't level up to level 2 after 14 days, you get removed. So if you were in the group and you didn't get active, you can always request to rejoin. Just get active, because if you don't get active, we do remove inactive members after 14 days. All right. So we would love to have you as a part of our community. Inside the community, we do monthly giveaways. We have fun. We share business insights and questions. From time to time, I'll pop up some surprises. You're first to know what's happening before the email list and everybody else get access to it. So the community is a great way to keep your finger on the pulse with the UnCloned community. The next thing that I will say is that if you don't know your Unclone brand score and you don't know where you stand, head over to unclonebrandscore.com to learn your Unclone brand score for absolutely free. We have over 1,200 people who have taken this assessment. We have a goal of hitting 10,000 people by the end of 2025. And so if you want to help us achieve that goal, please feel free to share this link with any of your entrepreneurial friends. That way y'all can link up together, hang out together and discuss your Unclone brand score and report and do whatever it is that it takes to increase it so you can have and build an Unclone brand. I would like to thank you all so much for tuning in to this live stream. I pray that you enjoyed these tips. Cannot wait to see how you use these tips during your next Q&A. And until next time, y'all, let's go live an uncloned life and build an uncloned brand. Bye, y'all.